The arrogant approach the massive Vorthan warship Eternal. Conquest drifted through the void like a metal predator hunting its prey. Commander Thylex stood before the bridge's main viewing screen, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the star system grow larger. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world, making them incredibly strong and resilient. Purple skin covered his muscular frame, while 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on his face gave him perfect depth perception. Bony ridges along his skull marked him as a member of the warrior caste, and his rank insignia showed he had conquered over 40 worlds for the Vorthan Empire. Behind him stretched the bridge of the most advanced warship in known space. Holographic displays showed tactical information, while his crew of specialists monitored every system. The Eternal Conquest was 3 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack planets. It served as the flagship for Battle Fleet Omega, which consisted of 80 of the most powerful ships the Vorthan Empire had ever built. "Commander, we are approaching the target system," announced Navigation Officer Krell, his voice carrying the typical Vorthan confidence that came from centuries of easy victories. Long-range sensors confirmed the presence of the primitive human settlement. Thylex's middle eye focused on the tactical display. The system contained a single habitable world that the humans called Haven's Rest. Intelligence reports indicated that 2 million humans lived there, having established colonies focused on mining rare minerals from the planet's crust. The humans had been in this system for only 30 years, making them newcomers to this region of space. "Pathetic," Thylex muttered as he studied the defensive positions around the human world. 4 small ships and a handful of orbital platforms. These humans clearly don't understand the reality of galactic power. The Vorthan Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 2,000 years. They had encountered hundreds of species, and every single one had either surrendered immediately or been crushed within hours of first contact. The Vorthans possessed technology that most species considered godlike. Their ships were powered by captured black holes. Their weapons could manipulate matter at the atomic level, and their shields could deflect the energy output of entire stars. "Sir, shall we begin the standard integration protocol?" asked Weapons. Officer Drath. The integration protocol was the Empire's term for the systematic destruction of a species' military forces, followed by the enslavement of survivors who showed useful skills. It was a process they had perfected over millennia. "Not yet," Thylex replied, studying the human positions more carefully. "I want to understand why these humans haven't fled. Every other species runs when they detect our approach. These humans are actually moving toward defensive positions." The tactical officer, a young Vorthan named Zen, highlighted several energy signatures on the display. "Commander, the human ships are powering up their engines and weapons. Their orbital platforms are also showing increased activity." Thylex felt a moment of genuine confusion. In his experience, primitive species usually begged for mercy the moment they saw a Vorthan fleet. The smart ones surrendered immediately and accepted integration with minimal resistance. The stubborn ones fought briefly before realizing the hopelessness of their situation. But these humans were actually preparing for battle against overwhelming odds. "Perhaps they don't understand what they're facing," suggested Communications Officer Vale. "Their technology is so primitive, they might not be able to properly scan our capabilities." This explanation made sense to Thylex. The human ships were tiny compared to Vorthan vessels, and their energy signatures suggested they used crude fusion reactors for power. Their weapons appeared to be simple projectile launchers and basic energy beams. Against Vorthan technology, such weapons would be completely useless. Meanwhile, on Haven's Rest, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood in the Command Center Orbital Defense Station Alpha, watching the alien fleet approach on her tactical displays. Elena was 42 years old, with black hair streaked with gray and dark eyes that had seen too many battles. She had served in the Earth Defense Force during the Solar Wars before accepting a position protecting the outer colonies. Her weathered hands moved across the control panels with practiced efficiency as she coordinated the defense of her adopted home. "Captain, we're detecting 80 confirmed hostiles," reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chun from the sensor station. Marcus was a slight man in his 30s who had volunteered for colonial service after his family was killed in a pirate raid. He had an exceptional talent for reading sensor data and had been tracking the alien fleet for 3 days. "Their energy? Signatures are off the charts. I've never seen anything like these ships." Elena nodded grimly. The approaching fleet was unlike anything in human databases. Each ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of human vessels, and they radiated energy levels that suggested incredibly advanced technology. But Elena had not survived 20 years of military service by being intimidated by superior numbers. "Or technology. What's the status of our defense fleet?" Elena asked. "Captain Sarah Martinez on the Defiant Spirit reports ready for combat," replied Communications Officer Lieutenant James Parker. "Captain David Kim on the Iron Will and Captain Lisa Thompson on the Steady Resolve are also in position." "Captain, Robert Singh on the New Dawn is moving to cover the evacuation routes. 4 ships against 80. The odds were impossible, but Elena felt no fear. She had grown up on Haven's Rest, arriving as a child with the first colonist wave. This world was her home, and these people were her family. She would not abandon them without a fight. The civilians on Haven's Rest were also preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. Dr. Michael Torres, the colony's chief medical officer, was setting up emergency treatment centers throughout the settlements. Engineer Patricia Wallace was converting mining equipment into defensive weapons. Farmers, miners, teachers, and shop owners were all volunteering to help however they could. "All civilian ships are to evacuate immediately," Helena ordered over the general communication channel. "Non-essential personnel should move to the underground shelters. This is not a drill." But many colonists refused to leave. Haven's Rest was the first place they had ever truly called home. They had spent decades building something beautiful in the wilderness of space, and they were not going to abandon it without a fight. The alien fleet continued its approach, and Commander Thylex grew more puzzled by human behavior. Long range scans showed that most human civilians were taking shelter, which was normal. But instead of fleeing the system, their military vessels were actually moving closer to the Vorthan fleet. It was the most suicidal tactical decision he had ever witnessed. "Open a communication channel," Thylex ordered. "Let's see if these humans are capable of reason." The main screen flickered, and suddenly Thylex found himself looking at a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. She had dark hair and intense eyes that showed no trace of the fear he expected to see. When she spoke, her voice was calm and steady. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Haven's Rest Defense Force. You are in human space without authorization. State your intentions, or leave immediately." The audacity of the statement left Thylex momentarily speechless. A primitive human was giving orders to a Vorthan fleet commander. It was like an insect demanding that a giant stop walking. "I am Commander Thylex of the Vorthan Empire," he replied, allowing his natural intimidation to color his voice. "You will surrender your world immediately and prepare your population for processing. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species." Elena's expression didn't change. "Commander, you and your fleet will leave this system immediately, or we will defend ourselves. This is your only warning." Thylex couldn't believe what he was hearing. The human was actually threatening him, a species that hadn't even developed. Faster-than-light travel was challenging the might of the Vorthan Empire. Asterisk. "You have 10 of your time units to surrender," Thylex announced. "After that, we will demonstrate why resistance to the Vorthan Empire is futile. The communication ended, and Thylex turned to his bridge crew. Prepare the forward batteries for a demonstration shot. Target one of their orbital platforms. We'll show them what our weapons can do. But as the Vorthan fleet moved into attack position, they had no idea that they were about to encounter something the galaxy had never seen before. The humans had been preparing for this day far longer than anyone realized, and they had developed capabilities that would shock even the mighty Vorthan Empire. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the alien fleet approach and felt a cold determination settle over her. These aliens thought humans were weak because they were small. They believed superior technology guaranteed victory. They had no concept of human stubbornness, ingenuity, or the lengths people would go to protect their homes. All ships, this is control, Elena broadcast on the tactical channel. Remember what we've trained for. These aliens think they know what we're capable of, but they're about to learn the hard way that humans don't give up easily. The first phase of the battle was about to begin, and neither side truly understood what they were getting into. As the alien weapons powered up to fire their demonstration shot, Elena gave her final order before the shooting started. All vessels, execute Protocol 7. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten human families. The real fight was about to begin. The devastating reality Commander Thylex watched with satisfaction as his flagship's main weapon charged to full power. The demonstration shot would vaporize one of the human orbital platforms instantly, showing these primitives the futility of resistance. He had used this tactic on dozens of worlds, and it always resulted in immediate surrender. "Weapons ready, Commander," announced Officer Drath. "Target locked on the largest human platform." "Fire," Thylex ordered. A beam of pure energy lanced across space toward the human defense station. The weapon contained enough power to destroy a small moon, and Thylex expected to see the platform disappear in a brilliant explosion. Instead, something impossible happened. The human station absorbed the blast completely. Energy fields around the platform glowed brightly for a moment, then returned to normal. The structure remained completely undamaged. "Impossible," breathed Navigation Officer Krell. "Our sensors show the energy was completely absorbed by their defensive systems." Thylex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His most powerful weapon had done absolutely nothing to the human position. The energy. Readings showed that the blast had been redirected somehow, channeled into the station's own power systems. "Sir, the human ships are moving," reported Tactical Officer Zen. "They're not retreating. They're advancing toward our fleet." Captain Elena Rodriguez smiled grimly as she watched the alien weapon discharge harmlessly against their shields. Amanda Foster, the colony's chief scientist, had spent 15 years developing adaptive energy absorption technology based on theoretical physics that most people thought was impossible. The shields didn't just block enemy fire. They converted it into usable power for their own systems. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Elena ordered. "Show these aliens what human engineering can do." The 4 human ships suddenly accelerated far beyond what their size should have allowed. Captain Sarah Martinez, aboard the Defiant Spirit, led the charge, her vessel moving like a fighter craft, despite being 300 meters long. The human ships didn't approach in the standard formation the aliens expected. Instead, they scattered in different directions, using tactics no civilized species had ever employed. "What are they doing?" Thylex demanded as he watched the human vessels spread out. "This makes no tactical sense." But the humans weren't trying to match alien tactics. They were using their own rules. Captain David Kim on the Iron Will suddenly dove toward the asteroid belt that ringed the system's outer edge. Captain Lisa Thompson on the Steady Resolve angled toward the system's gas giant, using its gravity well for cover. Captain Robert Singh on the New Dawn climbed above the orbital plane, approaching from an angle no Vorthan commander had ever considered. All ships, concentrate fire on the lead human vessel, Thylex ordered. Destroy it with overwhelming force. 20 Vorthan ships turned their weapons toward the defiant spirit and fired simultaneously. The space around Captain Martinez's ship filled with enough energy to sterilize a continent. But once again, the human shields held. More than that, they seemed to grow stronger with each attack. Impossible, muttered Commander Thylex. No species has shields that can absorb that much energy. What the aliens didn't understand was that human technology had been designed specifically to counter their weapons. Every piece of alien technology that humanity had encountered over the decades had been studied, analyzed, and improved upon. The humans had been preparing for this day for longer than the Vorthans realized. Captain Martinez felt her ship shake under the massive energy bombardment. But Chief Engineer Tom Bradley had built these shields to handle exactly this situation. Engineering to bridge, came Tom's voice over the intercom. Shields are holding at 90% efficiency. We're actually gaining power from their attacks. Excellent, Sarah replied. All ships, begin counterattack. Target their weapon. Systems. The defiant spirit fired a single projectile that moved faster than anything the Vorthans had ever encountered. The round was guided by artificial intelligence that adapted to enemy defenses in real time. It punched through the shields of a Vorthan cruiser like they weren't even there, striking the ship's main weapon array and causing a cascading explosion that disabled half the vessel. How is this possible? Demanded Thylex as he watched one of his most advanced ships fall victim to what appeared to be a simple kinetic round. The answer was that human weapons were smart weapons. Every shot learned from the previous one, adapting to enemy shield frequencies and defensive patterns. The aliens had never faced technology that could evolve during battle. Captain, Kim reached the asteroid belt and immediately put his ship's unique capabilities to work. The Iron Will was equipped with industrial-grade tractor beams, originally designed for mining operations. Kim grabbed a massive space rock and hurled it toward the Vorthan fleet at tremendous velocity. Incoming projectile, reported one of Thylex's officers. It's just a rock. Ignore it, Thylex ordered. Focus on the human ships. But the rock wasn't just a rock. It had been fitted with concealed explosive charges by the mining crews on Haven's Rest. When it struck a Vorthan destroyer, it detonated with the force of a nuclear weapon, taking the alien ship completely by surprise. Throughout the asteroid belt, hidden mining platforms that the aliens had dismissed as unimportant suddenly revealed their true nature. Chief Mining Engineer Carlos Mendez had spent months converting drilling equipment into military weapons. Industrial lasers that could cut through solid rock turned toward the alien fleet. This is Mendez to all mining platforms, Carlos broadcast. Light 'em up, people. Show these aliens what human miners can do. Beams of coherent light lanced out from dozens of hidden positions throughout the asteroid field. The aliens found themselves under attack from directions they hadn't even considered. Their sophisticated targeting systems had been designed for conventional fleet battles, not for hunting guerrilla fighters among space rocks. Commander Thylex watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled by enemies who refused to fight fair. These humans used every dirty trick imaginable. They converted civilian equipment into weapons, used asteroids as projectiles, and employed tactics that no civilized species would ever consider. Sir, we've lost 18 ships, reported Tactical. Officer Zen, his voice shaking with disbelief. The humans are using the entire system as a weapon against us. Captain Thompson, aboard the Steady Resolve, had reached the gas giant and was putting her ship's atmospheric processors to work in ways they were never intended. She scooped up massive amounts of hydrogen from the planet's upper atmosphere and compressed it into improvised fuel-air explosives. When Vorthan ships came too close, she released these gas clouds and ignited them with her ship's engines, creating explosions that could be seen from across the system. But the most devastating surprise was yet to come. Dr. Patricia Wallace, the colony's chief engineer, had quietly launched thousands of tiny maintenance drones during the early stages of the battle. These microscopic devices attached themselves to Vorthan ships like invisible parasites, completely undetected by alien sensors. "Now, Patricia," Elena ordered from the command center. The drones activated simultaneously, releasing electromagnetic pulses directly into the alien ship's computer networks. Vessels that had operated flawlessly for centuries suddenly found their systems failing. Navigation computers crashed, weapons powered down, and life support systems flickered in the chaos. That followed. The human ships struck like lightning. They moved through the disabled alien fleet, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. The Vorthans could only watch helplessly as their technological superiority counted for nothing against human ingenuity and determination. Commander Thylex's own ship was among those hit by the electromagnetic pulse. His command systems failed, cutting him off from fleet communications and tactical data. For several terrifying minutes, he was reduced to watching the battle through simple optical viewers, unable to coordinate his remaining forces. When his systems finally came back online, the battle was already over. Of his 80 ships, only 15 remained functional. The rest were either destroyed, disabled, or drifting helplessly with systems failures. His proud fleet had been utterly defeated by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. "Commander," came the voice of Captain Rodriguez over the communication system. "Your demonstration of Vorthan power was impressive, but not quite what you expected. This is what happens when you threaten human homes and families." Thylex stared at the tactical display showing the wreckage of his fleet. In his 2 centuries of military service, he had never imagined such a complete defeat was possible. The humans had used tactics, technology, and sheer determination that defied everything he thought he knew about warfare. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You're supposed to be a primitive species." Elena's image appeared on his main screen again, and this time her expression showed something that chilled him to his core. It wasn't anger or hatred. It was disappointment, like a teacher looking at a student who had failed to learn an important lesson. "Commander, we tried to warn you. Humans don't surrender easily, and we protect our own. You came here expecting to find helpless victims. Instead, you found people who are willing to fight for their freedom." The few surviving Vorthan ships began to withdraw, their commanders too shocked and demoralized to continue fighting. They had witnessed something that would shake their empire to its very foundations. A primitive species had not only defeated them, but had done so decisively, using technology and tactics that seemed impossible. As news of the battle spread across the galaxy, other species began to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. The small, seemingly weak creatures from the edge of civilized space had proven they were capable of defending themselves against the mightiest empire in known space. On Haven's Rest, the colonists emerged from their shelters to find their world still free and their defenders victorious. Children looked up at the stars with new hope, knowing that humans could stand against any threat. Engineers and scientists began studying captured alien technology, already planning improvements and adaptations. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood in her command center, looking out at the debris field that had once been a mighty alien fleet. She felt no satisfaction in the destruction, only relief that her people were safe. But she also knew that this was just the beginning. Word of humanity's strength would spread, and other species would come to test them. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Chun from his sensor station, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. It seems every major species wants to establish diplomatic relations with humanity." Elena smiled slightly. The galaxy had learned an important lesson today. Humans might be small, but they were not weak. They might use simple technology, but they used it in ways no one expected. Most importantly, they would never surrender their freedom without a fight. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had officially begun, and it would be nothing like what anyone had predicted. Asterisk